We're going to talk about graphics and being able to place images and graphics within InDesign. InDesign is a vector-based program like Illustrator in that you can draw shapes like rectangles and you can fill them with color, and give them a stroke and change the stroke size and things like that with it. It also allows you to, using the pen tool, draw individual shapes and do much the same that you would do in Illustrator, um, by giving those colors or assigning space or location, and you'll see that it overlays different things like that. It also gives you the options of aligning and pathfinder and stroke and all of those things that you saw in Illustrator. Unfortunately, it's not as effective for drawing as Illustrator is. So you're going to use, if you use InDesign to make graphics, they're typically going to be very simple ones. It's just not designed for that. Really what InDesign is sort of a pan, if you will, where you take a recipe and you put all those ingredients in the pan. This is the pan where you're putting images, graphics, text, all of these other things into this and assembling it here so that you can put it in the oven, or in this case send it to the printer or send it to a web page or something like that. So that's what InDesign is about, is kind of putting all these things together. And one of these things involves using graphics. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to import some graphics, and all these images are going to be on the website. If you go to the blog and you look at the course resources and then go to 1400 online, you'll see the different images that are in there and you'll be able to use those. First image I'm going to bring in is one called arc. Now, I don't open an image or a graphic, rather I place it. So go to File, Place, or Command D. Okay, we've got arc flat right here. Go ahead and open that. Now, when we place graphics, there are multiple ways we can do it. If I do this and just click, it's going to place the graphic at full size, which means that I'm going to have to grab that guy and scale it down a little bit. So I can scale this to 50%. Now you'll see these two there's a chain link there, so it's locked. So if I change this to 50%, this has to as well. Also, because my reference point is in the top left corner, it's going to scale based on where that's located. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and you'll see that it will change in size. Another way that I can get it to change in size is if I hold the command key down and then drag that, it will change the size of it. Now you'll see that the percentages aren't the same, and I can kind of stretch and distort it. As a rule, you don't want to do that with an image. Rather, I'm going to push shift and hold that down as well, and that will constrain it like that. And so that will scale it that way. Now another way that you can place an image is simply by having a box there already. And I can go, and if you notice those green lines that showed up, those are smart guides. Now in Illustrator I hate those, but in InDesign I like them because what they do is they help me to see that things are measured and are aligned well. So I'm going to have that there, and with that box selected, which we can tell by those anchor points around there, I can go Command D or File, Place, and I'm going to try to get arc flat again. Now it's going to open up inside of that image. Now it's a little harder to scale this time, and if I scale here, it's going to scale the whole box. So what I want to do in this case, instead of selecting the black arrow, which will select the entire object, I'm going to select the white arrow, which will allow me to select the content. Now once I've selected that content, I can come up here to my control palette, type in 50%, and it will automatically scale that, because when I have something selected with the white arrow, it's dealing with the content. The black arrow deals with the box. So if the black arrow is selected and I hit 50%, it's going to adjust that box that size. Okay. Now I'm going to just go ahead and continue to scale that down so that it fits within that space right there. Okay, and you'll see that guide that shows you where you're centered and stuff like that. All right. So those are a couple ways to do it. Finally, the last way that you can do it that makes it even a little easier, if you know where you want something to go, is go to File, Place, or Command D, get Arc, open it, and now instead of just clicking or having a box there, I'm going to click with my Shift key and my Command key, and it's going to place that image within the box size. So if I have a bunch of type and I know that I need pictures somewhere generally in this area, I'm going to go ahead and push Shift and Command. I'm going to Command D to import or file place, and then push Shift and Command, and it will allow me to drag and draw that box wherever I want it so that it will be the right size for me. You can see that aligns it as well, like that. Okay, so those are 3 ways to get images in. Now let's talk about what we can do with those images. In this case, my page should be landscape. I'm going to just switch my page to landscape really quickly. Go to File, Document Setup, and change that to landscape. Then hit OK. I can move this down. Push my space bar that will allow me to move that over just a little bit so I can see it. Now there are a couple things I want you to notice about this. In this Illustrator file, I'm going to enlarge this box just a little bit. You can see this background blue color and tick marks and all those are things I set up in Illustrator. But you'll notice by selecting this with the black arrow that there's no color within the box. And you'll see that the color here is none. So if I click here, it's going to add that color behind it. So I can see that. It can create a path or a stroke around it as well if I choose to do something like that. So I can go in and adjust those. Illustrator is going to allow you to, anywhere there's nothing in that image, it's going to show color through there. In this case, let's get rid of these for a moment. We don't really need them. What we want to do though is we want to crop this image out. So let's say I just want to see this image of the 2 of them. Because this is a frame around it, anything outside of it is hidden. So I'm going to drag this down to those tick marks right there. And I'm going to drag this one in. And the great thing is you can still see a ghost of an image behind it when you're scaling that so that it'll allow you to see kind of what you've got. And now that will crop out that image and I can move it up and move it around anywhere I want. Also, you'll notice with the black arrow I get this little circle in here sometimes. That's a hot spot. What that means is if I click on the center and I drag that down, it will change my tool. While it won't change my tool to the black arrow, it will change it from selecting the content to, or from selecting the box to actually selecting the content. So that's a side note. One thing I want you to notice is this, and I'm going to zoom in really fast in this area. This gives you a really rough image, and the drawing that I did is really kind of a clean image, but what it's doing is it's giving us a 72 dot per inch version of this, or a low resolution version, because in order to be able to save memory in large documents that have a lot of pictures, it's going to give us a lower resolution just to save memory. Sometimes though I need to work on things and I'll need to see a little higher resolution, so I can go to Object, Display Performance. I'm going to use High Quality Display. And now it will give me that stronger and better image. And you'll see an example of why we do that later. But it only works on a case-by-case basis. For example, I can't do that and have it apply to every image within the document. I have to do it one image at a time to be able to make those adjustments. And then when I'm done using it to save on memory, I'll go back up to my object, go to Display Performance, and I'll just do Typical Display. You could also do Fast Display, which is just going to give you a gray area as a space holder. But normally, I want a typical display so as I can just see what's happening with it. The next image we're going to bring in, and I'm going to go back here to File, Document Setup, and I'm going to change this back to Portrait, because what I want to do is bring in a black and white or grayscale TIFF or grayscale image from Photoshop. So I'm going to go File, Place. Let's see, there we go. Place. I'm so used to Command D that I don't do it. I don't notice that. We'll go to Marley 028.jpg. And now I'm going to push Command or Shift and Command and get Marley in at this size. Now this is a drawing, and it's a grayscale drawing. Now the thing about a grayscale drawing, I'm also going to come in close and just so you can see it better, put our high quality display on it again. The thing about a grayscale drawing is it's a 255 versions of gray, so ranging from really dark to very, very light and very subtle. And so when I bring it into the computer or bring it into InDesign, because it only has that one color format or that one color gamut in there, I can go ahead and select that image, and you'll see that it says black currently. I can come in here now and change that to red, or I can change it to blue or green, or I can create a new color and change it to whatever color I want it to be. I can lighten that color, okay, I can darken it, and that's dealing with the image itself. Now, I can also select the box, which currently has no color, and I can give it a color. So I can create a series of colors, or almost a duotone type of version, by coming in here and adding those colors. And maybe I'll lighten it up or something like that, or do whatever I want. And so any grayscale Photoshop or grayscale raster-based image, I can go ahead and change into any one of a number of different colors. And what that means is if I create a Pantone, if I'm creating a one-color document that uses a Pantone color like Pantone 282, which is a dark blue, or 485, which is a true red, I can get that color and I can assign that to this picture, and then it will stay in the same color print or the same printing palette as the rest of the document. So it allows me to assign it. Okay. Now let's get rid of that. Finally, we're going to do one last thing. Go to File, Place. I'm going to place Ducky. Okay. Here's ducky.tiff. Now, this is a raster-based image, and I'm going to put a background color in there of orange. There's a reason that that's white here, and that's because it's a raster-based image, and every one of those images is every one of those pixels has to have a color assigned to it. So, what I may want to do though, let's say for example, actually I want to put it over half blue, or this portion I want to be dark blue. I'm going to send that to the back, Shift Command left bracket. And I want this head to come right up against that. Well, I can go ahead and select this path, and then I can add anchor points to it. We'll just add a few anchor points here. And what that will allow me to do, oops, gotta make sure that I have just individual anchor points selected. That will allow me to come in here and to be able to make a round shape that will mask out the rest of that head. So for example, I can do that, then I'll push with my pen tool, push my Option key just like Illustrator, and I can go ahead and click and drag, if I can get on it, there we go, click and drag, and then move these around so that I can crop out anywhere outside of that duck image or outside of that duck head that I choose, so that it will go right up against that image. And I can do that all the way around. I can take that box, and by adding anchor points and moving them around, and then adding or using the convert tool to convert that, I can create that shape that goes all the way around that duck. And that will allow me to put another picture behind it. It will allow me to put a block of color behind it. It will allow me ultimately, and we'll see this in our next session, to wrap text around it. So those are some of the things that you can do. We'll see you next time when we